I just got my Sunlu Filament connector in. I'm gonna unbox it, use it, and review it. I bought this with my own money. Sunlu didn't pay me for this review. They didn't send this to me for free for a review. So the opinions of this are mine and mine alone, and as unbiased as I can make them. I was looking forward to getting this filament connector in because what this promises is to take two pieces of filament that aren't connected and fuse them together to create one piece like it was one piece the whole time. What this means is that if you have a small amount of filament left on a spool, you can fuse it together with a new spool of filament, and then you don't have to waste that small amount or find a weird little project to print something out with so you don't think you're wasting it. You could also Frankenstein colors together and make interesting combinations for your prints if you want to do that. What I want to use it for today is I have 9 spools of filament and I want to reduce this to 4. So let's get started.
All right, let's get to the unboxing. Inside the box, you have the instructions, you have your power cable, and then you have these little tubes. They call them fusion sleeves. They are PTFE tubes, and they will help you fuse your filament together. And then you have the machine itself. It's a pretty simple machine. It has a cover and a chamber on the inside, which does the heating and fusing. Before I use it, I should probably read the instructions. The instructions tell me to plug it into power and then use the little touchscreen to turn it on. The machine has different presets for different types of filament. It will show the type of filament it is selected for, and then you have the temperature that it is going to on the right and the temperature that it is on the left. If you press the settings button and then use the arrow keys, you can adjust the presets to choose the type of filament you want to fuse together. This is capable of fusing PCl, PLA, ABS, PETG, and PA/PC. You can also adjust the temperature manually. I have some white, blue, and gray filament with just a little bit of filament left on the roll, and I'm going to try to fuse these together and create one long roll out of it and use it as prototyping material. The instructions say to cut the two ends of the filament you want to fuse together at an angle, then place them into the tube, and they should fit together like a puzzle piece inside of the tube. Then you place that joint into the machine, making sure it's centered on the heating element. I will be the first to admit that sometimes instructions don't go in my head properly, and I didn't understand the instructions completely and left the filament in the heating element way too long. This is what ends up happening when you leave it in way too long. You melt the fusion tube and it doesn't make a good connection. First try, miserable failure. On to my second try, and again I didn't quite understand the instructions, left it in way too long, and another miserable failure. Could it be 3 times lucky? Let's find out. Nope. Another miserable failure. Maybe it's 4th time's a charm. Wow, that doesn't look too bad. There is hope. Wow, that joint looks really good until I turn it over and see that it's barely connected and pulls right apart. But I'm making progress. I will keep on plugging along with my 5th try. I don't think I had the joint centered in the heating element here, and this is what that looks like. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And I basically pulled it out of the tube before it was cooled, so on to my 7th attempt. I think I'm finally getting the hang of it by now and understand the instructions, which is key. Could it be that 7 is a lucky number? Let's check it out. Oh my goodness, look at that joint. It looks beautiful. It is almost perfect. It is fused nicely together. There's just a little bit of a gap, but it is held together strong. I tested it out by pulling and bending, and it looks great. I wound all the blue filament onto the white spool, and now I just consolidated 2 spools to 1. Next, it was time to attach the little bit of gray I had left to the blue, and that joint came out really good too. I think I'm getting the hang of this. Then I wound the gray onto the multicolor roll and went from 2 rolls to 1. Next, I had a little bit of black filament left on a spool and wanted to consolidate that with a newer spool of black, and that joint came out great too. And again, I was able to consolidate 2 rolls down to 1. Next up was this nice looking green. If you've never replaced filament onto a bamboo spool, this is how you do it. You twist it apart, take the center cardboard spool out, Unwrap your replacement spool, and you'll notice in the plastic spool a little notch, and you'll notice a notch in the cardboard of the replacement spool, and those nestle together. On the spool, you will see a little triangle on one side and another triangle on the other half, and those line up together, and you press the spools together and twist, and they lock into place, and now you have new filament on an old spool. Slip all the plastic pieces out that holds the filament together, and you are ready to use it. Time to fuse the leftover green onto the new green and consolidate my spools. One thing I noticed about the joints is that they're a little more brittle than the rest of the filament. If you bend them a little bit, you'll see some white cracks like this. I don't see it as much of a problem, but I just wanted to make note of it here. Next up is some glow-in-the-dark PLA. I got that for my candy skull project. I printed an entire skull in glow-in-the-dark PLA. It came out really great. I'll leave the link in the show notes for you to check out. I want to take you step by step on how to use this filament connector and also offer my tips and suggestions of what I learned using it. First, cut both ends of the filament you wish to fuse at a sharp angle. Quick tip is to try to straighten the ends of the filament to take the bend out of it. It'll just make this whole process a little bit easier. Then slide the ends of the filament you want to fuse together into the fusion tube and fit them together like a puzzle piece. Then place your joint into the machine, making sure it is centered. While it is heating up the filament, firmly press the filament together so the ends get squished together while it is melting. When you hear the 3 beeps, it is time to take it out. Slowly take it out and be careful not to pull your joint apart. Apply slight pressure inwards so it stays together. Then just wait for it to cool and solidify. I found if you hold the joint to the table, it will help keep the joint straight while it solidifies. Once it is cooled, which should take about 10 to 20 seconds, place the joint in the cutter and cut through the fusion tube, and then remove it completely from your filament. Then inspect your joint and make sure it's fully fused together. If it's not, cut it and try it again.
So with this thing, I took 9 rolls of filament and reduced them to 4. So what do I think of the Sunlu filament connector? Overall, I think it's really, really great. It allows you to take the small bits of filament you have left over and attach them to new spools of filament to reduce waste. As you saw, it took me a few attempts to figure out exactly how to get those filament pieces connected well. The connections weren't perfect. It didn't look like it was factory. If you run your fingers over it, you could feel, I did feel a little bit of a bump. Maybe with some more practice, I could get it even better and smoother. Overall, I think this thing is really great. I would recommend it. It's going to stay in my toolbox for when I have spools of thread I need to consolidate to keep everything organized and reduce my waste. If you have any questions about the filament connector, leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next project.